Hey guys, welcome back to Front Wing Damage, FWD. This episode will be brought to you by Aditya Swaminathan and Siddharth Atmaram.
Well. This is the first time, the very first, we're going to have a visual podcast. And it's all thanks to Soumil Arora for felicitating this opportunity for us to do a visual podcast. So, Soumil, hello. By the way, Soumil is our guest for this podcast and hopefully a recurring one. He is into the F1 scene in India as well. He does the podcasting scene as well. And from what me and Aditya have heard, pretty knowledgeable, probably more than us. And, hopefully, this is going to be a really quality podcast. Hopefully, this podcast is not just going to revolve around the most recent race weekend, that's the Monaco GP. We'll also hopefully, talk about certain things revolving motorsport in general in India. Or as me, as Saumil and us are there in the, let's say, not the journalism scene, but as the entertainment scene in general. I mean, how do we push the limits since, Formula One hasn't hit the sweet spot in India? So there are going to be, many more questions that we're going to be asking. And stay tuned in. So for the viewers on the visual and audio as well, it's going to be the same, obviously. We don't know how this works. This is the first time. So, but yeah, the main headline for the Monaco GP is this. Is Ferrari's recurring bottling of their strategy or their car in general, is it going to be detrimental to them winning or losing the championship? Considering the fact that Sergio Perez is 15 points, within 15 points of the championship lead. Now, how detrimental will Ferrari's constant bottling of the championship be? Is it going to be the same as 2017 and 2018? Or is there going to be a turn of the tide? And this is, this is the first question that we're going to be posing today. Soumil, what's your take on it?
Firstly, Siddharth, you're being so kind at the intro. I'm definitely not that knowledgeable as you think of me to be. But coming to Ferrari, I think it's just common knowledge, right? It's ridiculous how things have panned out for them over the last couple of years. And I know this following code is not going to be an original, but it's been kind of published everywhere, and it kind of resonates the sentiment very clearly. It's like a midfield team has been given a top car, and they are absolutely clueless of what to do with it. And it's so perfect because when you consider the only one reliability issue, which is still all right, but just the way they have been dealing with their drivers, that's been a bit absurd. I mean, case in point, Carlos Sainz, right? What sort of precedent are they establishing? In one case, the team is very strict on calling Leclerc in and backing him with that call. But on the other hand, the second driver is able to make his call on his own. So what works at the end? Does Sainz even trust Ferrari the next time out? That decision-making hierarchy kind of gets affected very, very badly just through one incident, right? And there's so many other things that can go wrong for Ferrari. So inevitably, it's already cost them so much. And I just can't wonder actually what the next big incident for them will be. Because with Ferrari, you always get a feeling that it's going to come. I mean, you never are too far away from a bit of a blunder.
Obviously. And not just that, just before you say anything, Aditya, not just that, me being a Ferrari fan in 2017 and 2018 as well, it just seems like what Ferrari, a Seb Vettel fan. Shush. No, but what it seems in 2022 right now is that they're just trying to do everything that they didn't do in 2017 and 2018.
Yeah.
That's the kind of vibe I'm getting right now. It's just like they're trying everything that they didn't do. They're trying to do everything the opposite. Reliability-wise, strategy-wise, and everything. Because if you take, for example, 17 and 18, there's a clear demarcation between Vettel and Kimi, saying that Vettel was the number one and Kimi was number two. Here at this stage, I mean, psychologically, I think we both know, or the three of us know, who the number one is. But in general, it just seems like, they're trying something different. And I would say for the beginning part of the season so far, it seemed like it was clicking. The car had the rear end stability of the throttle, first to second gear. It also seemed like through the slow and medium speed corners, they were just flying like rocket jets. On the straight line, yes, they weren't at par with the Red Bull powertrains, but I mean, they're moving. That's more than enough. But I mean, getting to the, a little more serious, it seems like they have a good car, but the execution in general doesn't seem like they are a championship winning team. It just seems like Samuel said perfectly, a midfield team has been given a tool that that has the opportunity to win the championship, but they don't know how to do it. They're doing things that are just recurring, and if you talk about it, it's just a reminiscent of 2017 and 2018, which isn't good for a Ferrari. Because if you also take the flip side, Red Bull, who is their main championship contender, has just won the championship and came very close to the Constructor Championship as well. So they know what they're doing. Ferrari doesn't. So who knows, what's going to pan out. But in general, it seems like, Ferrari, as I said, Ferrari are trying something that they didn't do in 2017 and 2018. They're trying to do something different, which has clicked so far. But it seemed to have a bit of desync the past 2-3 races. And I mean, what about you, Aditya? What's your take?
Yeah, so I felt like obviously to an extent Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc did get unlucky with the strategy. I mean, with the blue flags and whatever. And actually, I'd like to point that out. The blue flag situation with Alex Albon was absolutely pathetic. It sets the wrong precedent, 16 blue, a driver can't go past 16 blue flags and then like getting away with it because it doesn't make any sense. I mean, common racing courtesy is to see the first blue flag and get out of the way, right? I mean, that's what we're all taught in karting. But the maximum is 3 because if you can't give way in a particular part of the track, you get 3 corners to you get 3 blue flags to actually go out a line and give way. And okay, Monaco is narrow and tight, so why not give it in a different part of the track, like the tunnel? A lot of people are saying no, but then the track was wet, he's gonna lose the car when he goes over to the wet line, but like the tunnel is gonna be perfectly dry at a stretch, so why not give way there? Albon completely ignored blue flags there, which just sets the wrong precedent, because like I mean, I saw this on Twitter. Actually, I really didn't know about it when the race was happening. I saw it on Twitter later. When I saw it, I was absolutely fuming because, every time you, as a race car driver, every time you enter a steward's room, it's like a court case, really. You look at previous examples and it's basically a court case, and you need your own lawyer, and then the stewards are the judges and whatever. So you look at previous examples and examples in other races to defend your own statement. And if a driver, if a backmarker can defend his statement with using Formula One as the example with Alex Albon, it's just wrong for the sport, because Formula One is the top level of motorsport. And yeah, coming back to topic, yeah, for me it was really reminiscent. Ferrari's strategy was really reminiscent of the old 17, 18 bottle job days, like just throwing away a victory. And I feel like in Monaco it should be illegal for you not to win a race from pole, and Ferrari have successfully done that. Leclerc's curse is not yet over. He's happy he's finished, but he knows that he could have easily won that race.
Yeah, and one more question to you, Samuel. Actually, a bit of a personal question, to set the form of the podcast in general. Who is your favorite driver, and what team do you support this year?
Oh, that's a tough one, actually. I am
going to go. It shouldn't be a tough one.
I am going to go by the diplomatic route, because when I started watching, I just started watching for the sake of the racing in the first place. So there never really was any connection to a driver, just for the sake of entertainment, right? Just because you want to tune into your racing and you want to enjoy quite a lot. I love Fernando Alonso because you never get a dull moment with him, right? Even though it may be for the bad many of the times, but you're never bored. And then that's the whole point of watching Formula One. Think of it. Why do we watch
we're going to have an issue then. We're definitely going to have an issue. We're going to have an issue.
Well, it's just part of El Plan, man. Even if we have an issue with Fernando, issues are always normal. So if you're a Fernando fan, I suppose you're used to it in a way.
Yeah. I mean, he was a very good train, I think he was just about as slow as an Indian train, just like an Indian train was slightly faster.
But I loved his statement after the race. He said, Lewis staying behind, well, that's not my problem.
It's the easiest thing.
Bravo, Fernando. Bravo.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, why
And
should it be?
and not just that, it just speaks a lot about Fernando. His cockiness, his absolute monumental ego, his passion for racing, saying that, it was easy to keep him back. Lewis in a Mercedes, a 7-time world champion, easy. What do I have to do? Stay on fifth gear? Easy, man. No issue at all. And it was so, it was actually, it annoyed me to a certain extent that, what is he doing? I mean, he's not going full beans. But it also seems strategically sane what he was doing.
It's Monaco, man.
It
It's
did
Monaco,
annoy Lewis a
baby.
lot.
Yeah, it's Monaco, baby. You just park your car at the apex and just drive.
Exactly.
It's like
But,
the whole purpose and the whole point of Alpine and Alonso coming back into F1 is just to annoy Lewis Hamilton, because that's what they've done
Exactly.
every step of the way.
Yeah.
It's like, they're just there to be the anti-Hamilton, the anti-Mercedes,
I mean, some would argue that's the
There's-
FIA. Some would argue that's the FIA, but I don't argue that. I'd say some.
But yeah, I mean, in general, that was the other topic that I want to talk about. It may not be, connected to the Monaco GP in general, but how has Fernando Alonso, according to you, performed so far in 2022? Do you think he is a person who is good enough to keep that Alpine seat instead of, an upcoming driver like Oscar Piastri? I mean, let's take, for example, Fernando Alonso. I mean, I've just set the platform for him. 2021, he came back, he's beaten Ocon. And not just that, it just seemed like reminiscent of the past Alonso in general. But I also feel that the reason he's come back to racing is I mean, obviously people say it's passion and everything, but there is a lot of, I guess, a lot of ego that is involved, and there's a lot of unfinished business for him. I think that's the main reason. But what about you? Being a Fernando fan, I'm sure you must know the reason. Because I don't see the point of a 41-year-old man racing for no point. I mean, I don't see the point. But anyways.
I'll go a bit short because I want to know Aditya's take on it as well. But I suppose in a sentence, it just has to be because he can. He's just here because he can. I mean, he's good enough. What else do you do, right? If you're 41, you've kind of experienced everything else. You don't want to live in America. You don't want to do IndyCar full time. You just race in Formula One. And to be honest, yes, there have been a couple of bad performances per se with Fernando, but in general, right, the way he's performing over the last year and a half, he's still good enough for it. And Esteban has been taking him to another level. But I don't think any young driver can match it instantly. So long as he's good enough, why bother? It's just entertainment for all of us. And Formula One wouldn't mind that as well, because here we are sitting on a Tuesday evening discussing Fernando Alonso, even though he's 41 and not in the points occasionally. I mean, the guy has value himself. So.
Okay, God damn it, you got me.
Yeah. But what about you, Aditya?
I mean, he's done everything. He's won Le Mans, almost won Indy. And then now he's in F1.
He's not done everything. He's not beaten Sebastian Vettel. He's not done everything.
Ooh, that's a Seb fanboy thing to say. But yeah, we'll move past that. But I mean, I wish I had the option, either Indy or F1. That'd be a cool thing to say. Like, I'm going to drive Indy or F1. But yeah, no. Jokes apart, I think Alonso is here just to drive. Like, really, it's not anything else. Like, you can clearly see his passion. I mean, he's done Dakar. Like, what F1 driver does Dakar? Like a rally, like the world's toughest rally. Like, it's just a simple passion to drive. And I think it's brought him back to F1. Maybe he's interested in the 22 rule changes. And maybe that's why he jumped in at 21. He didn't want to get straight into the 22 regulation change. And yeah, you can see he's good enough. And it's a controversial opinion. He's going to be better if Oscar Piastri was his teammate. Alonso's miles better. I mean, why would you put Piastri when Alonso's there? I mean, Alonso gives you the experience, the wealth of knowledge,
Okay. Hold up. It is a fact that 2021 Alonso had the worst tire management on the grid. It is a fact that his tires used to degrade the fastest. He used to struggle with, the drop end of the tires. You can't oppose.
But his performances didn't he
obviously
he was as good as Ocon? I mean, or did he finish ahead of Ocon?
He did finish ahead.
Exactly. Point proven. Done. he beat a guy who was in F1 for the last 6 years. So there, point proven, man. Alonso, he came back in the sport and beat his teammate. That's all you need for to see if you're good enough. And yeah, I think he's here for the 22 changes and the new competitive cars, with closer racing and all that. But yeah, that for me, that's the sole reason he's here. And after this, he's going to go to Indy and get that triple crown for sure. That's how I see his career.
So, I mean, let's move on. There's a question that I also wanted to ask you, Soumil. In terms of the philosophy of the team, forget the history, the philosophy in which they're operating so far. I'm sure us three would have observed some kind of operating philosophy. Who do you think right now has the correct operating philosophy between Ferrari and Red Bull? Do you think it is Ferrari having a better operating philosophy in terms of just in general the way they act or the way they've set up their team in general? Or do you think it's Red Bull?
That's a tough one to call at this moment in time with Red Bull actually incorporating Red Bull powertrains, because it seems like a good move in the long run, but there's so many teething issues that you have to face with it. So it's hard to pick at this moment in time. But on track, you have to give it to Red Bull. They have clear defined roles. They know exactly who their number one and the number two is, which might be boring for all of us, but at least they know what they're doing. At least they know which upgrades go to whom. So there's no dispute on that. At least they know who gets the first priority on strategies. And also, they've managed to end up fighting for a championship for 2 years in a row in the middle of probably the biggest regulation change in history. That's just such a big deal, and we can't quite understate that. So in the way they're organized, yes, they might seem like a very arrogant team, and I absolutely despise Christian Horner's media sessions. They're just terrible. It's just you listen to it from one end,
I love Christian. I love big old. I love
Christian Horner ki jai.
Yeah.
I mean, he just doesn't mean anything. At one point of time, you know that he's just going to act like a chameleon, because at one point of time, he'll say, oh, yes, certain rule change. If it benefits Red Bull Racing, it's good. But then he'll go right to the opposite of it and say, well, no, that's not fair because it's the sport and it's the philosophy and X, Y, Z. But yeah, apart from Christian Horner, there's such a well-run team. But I think it's just his media perception. Behind it, he's so good at operating the team that I think I have to give it to Red Bull.
Yeah, I think, yeah, same. I mean, between Red Bull and Ferrari are still trying to figure things out. It's been 15 years since they've won a championship, and they're still trying to figure out. 2008.
Yeah.
They won the constructors.
2000.
Yeah,
they won the
constructors in 2000.
14 years, 15 years. They're still trying to figure out how to win it again, which is mind-boggling. They've gone through the cycle of team bosses. They've gone through the cycle of CEOs. It's almost like they've become like RCB. RCB is well started in 2008. RCB started in 2008. Ferrari's last championship was in 2008. I see a curse going on, but
wait, does that make Leclerc the new Virat now?
Oh,
in a way.
Oh,
because he's been there long enough.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, let's not go down that route. As two Bangaloreans here, let's not go down that route.
I mean, cricket is not personal for me. Cricket is slew us me how much you want. It makes no difference.
Yeah, same.
But in general, I had actually say the opposite. Operating philosophy, I think. Talking about emotion as a team, I think Ferrari have a lot more emotion in the decisions that they make.
But who ends up winning though? Red Bull, right?
True. No, at the end of the day, yes.
All that
but
matters.
I'm saying, no, obviously. But at the end of the day, I think Ferrari is driven by passion. Red Bull is driven by P1s. But Ferrari is just, Ferrari,
Yeah.
It's Ferrari.
That's that, yeah.
So I think each mechanic, each engineer, each driver drives. Their motivation is driven to, I think, uphold the glory of Enzo Ferrari, or just the prancing horse in general. So operating philosophy in general,
and actually, I'll add something to that. Because of that emotion behind it, there's a certain pressure, there's a certain responsibility. You're responsible.
Exactly. I was just about to come to that. That's what forces drivers like Seb Vettel in 2017 and 2018 to
go into
crumble under
depression.
To go into depression. To crumble under the pressure, or to crumble under the pressure in general.
Go bald.
I have to win for Ferrari. I have to go bald. Go home, man.
It's true though.
It's true.
Why is it always a Seattle fan that gets slewed on? What is this? Huh?
Because
he's the third, fourth best driver in history.
Look, you only make jokes on people you love, right? You only
exactly.
sometimes get angry on your family members. So we can only do that with Vettel because we don't feel the same emotion for anyone else. But what a man!
Yeah, but I have actually a question, which hurts here. Do you think the Aston Martin, the AMR 22 Spec B, or the let's say the tunnel version of the car, does it have does it have the potential to actually fight? I mean, see, after the Monaco GP, Vettel came 10th. After his press conference, he said that there are upgrades that are coming up that they feel they're going to fight Mercedes for the constructors in general. Now, do you think this could be true, or do you think it's just a bunch of gossip in general?
I mean, your guess is as good as mine at this stage. I mean, I wish Aston Martin knows at this stage if they can do that as well, because even they might be clueless.
Nah, man, you don't understand how frustrating it is, huh? Pre-season, or at the end of the season, I'm telling Aditya, Martin Whitmarsh is back. Dan Fowler from Red Bull is there.
Yeah.
Some Mercedes Aero is there. Some guy from Alfa Romeo has come. Lawrence Stroll is pumping in billions into his new factory. And what do they get? 14th place, 15th place.
Yeah, it's that good old meme,
It hurts.
Is that guy? Is that I don't know his name. The YouTuber who's playing F1. Top three, 16th. It's that meme over and over again for Aston Martin. Like,
no, I mean, I told this in the previous episode. No, I told this in the previous episode. And just to again solidify the same thing. The reason Aston Martin are doing so bad is because there are two operating philosophies at the end of the day. Vijay Mallya was a man who understood that patience and long-term development is a huge thing that comes into play for a season, in terms of the season or long-term in general, after the season as well. But we have our man Lawrence Stroll, who believes in immediate success, whose only thing is that my business has to grow or my business has to succeed. I need to gain profits. So what's his immediate solution for an immediate, what's his immediate solution?
The ironic part
is the best car on the grid.
The ironic part is Vijay Mallya is the one who's being arrested for fraud. Who's being hunted down for fraud. Ironically, the man who's patient with money.
Still though. No. I'm serious though.
Money.
There is a huge difference between how there's a huge difference between how Vijay Mallya operated and how Lawrence Stroll is operating. I also told this to you, Aditya, in the previous episode. When Otmar left Aston Martin and he was doing an interview, he said that the thing he feared the most was a boardroom meeting with Lawrence Stroll and the other engineers. The other engineers would either sugarcoat Lawrence Stroll on performance or they would not speak out of total fear. And this is not the kind of, this kind of toxic environment that you require in an F1 team for it to grow. I mean, they're just saying that their ambition is to fight for the championship. They've got a four-time world champion, the third best driver, the fourth best driver in history in the team. They have an actual good talent in Lawrence Stroll. And they're giving them, a tool that is absolutely useless. So, I mean, I got your point, Soumil, that your guess is as good as mine right now. But it's quite.
Or even Aston Martin's actually. Even Aston Martin's, because every team is pretty much in the dark at this stage. It's hard to really tell, but you can't quite blame Lawrence Stroll for that because let's be honest. Even if I was somebody investing $200 million into a Formula One team, I would kind of want results instantly, although that's not how it works. But your engineers, well, they have to be accountable to someone. But let's be very clear as well, right? It's two completely different teams. It's not the same Force India that we knew and loved from the past. It might be the same factory, but only for a couple of years at max. But it's a completely different team in the way they're targeting their goals. And this might be a bit of a transition phase because remember, they're shifting factories. So the team isn't quite technically there yet. But yeah, I suppose they just got the regulations wrong. But I don't think that within a couple of years, they will still be where they are because with the resources bumping up, with them hiring better engineers, I think it's just a matter of time. But this year seems a bit unlikely. But yeah, I think the only person pretending to be a fraud in that team is Lance for pretending to be a Formula One driver. Where have the performances been? And what's up with all the Canadians? I mean, they're very nice people. I mean, in the interviews, you'd love listening to them and feel like, you're such a nice person. I wish you the best of luck. But I mean, think of it. Monaco, first scene after green flag, both the Canadians crashing out. It's perfect. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
And I mean, not just that. I mean, I did say Lance Stroll is a talent. One thing that, I mean,
Talented
here's
at
the
burning
thing.
money?
I don't
I know
Nah,
that
that's a
was a bit harsh,
violation.
but-
That's a violation. No. That's.
No, I'm just kidding.
He
Right?
did. He did.
I'm sure he can drive
but,
better than me.
He did get a top 3. He did get a top 3 in a Williams. He did get
He
a
Yeah, he did get a top 3 in a Williams, and not just that. Give him the right car, and trust me, he can pull out performance.
I mean, give anyone
it's-
give anyone a right car, they'll do a performance. I mean, it's F1, man.
Is Sainz
Yeah,
doing it? No.
That's a good
Is
He
point.
almost did
doing
it. Okay,
No.
fair enough. Fair enough.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Did Kimi do it? No.
Yeah.
Kimi in 2017, 2018.
Okay,
was
yeah, fair
absolute
enough.
dog
You
shit.
got that.
Yeah, no,
But
but
they're
in
not
general,
they're not Lance Stroll. Okay, but that's a dead point. Right? It's not worth carrying on for far too long. I think the sentiment has been made.
Okay, so another team like I would like to talk about is Haas. Like, is their fairy tale over?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I don't want to believe it. I'm a Haas fan now. Like, I'll carry the Haas flag till my arms are sore and bleeding. But
I'm sure, Aditya, every day in the morning you say, I pledge my allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Huh?
yeah, I do the whole bald eagle thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Anyways, but it was actually predicted that Haas would have
Yeah.
a very small stint of good performances because after within the 5th race itself, Haas said, okay, we don't know what the season is. Hey, you go drive, man. We will develop the next year's car. It's okay. No, but
They just stole
with-
Mazepin's money. They just frauded.
man, that was
Yeah,
that
Kim
was
has to,
smart,
like-
big brains.
Yeah.
No, but in general, it was predicted that Haas would have a period of 6-7 races that they would do well, and after that, it's back to square one because it's not easy for a small team to immediately jump. Yes, they've made a big jump, even if this is their position right now, 10th, 11th, 9th. It is a good position, but could Haas have, somehow translated that beginning of the season pace? I mean, Kevin came 5th, 6th in the Bahrain GP.
Yep.
Could they have translated that to 5th, 6th, or 7th, 8th throughout the season? Maybe yes, maybe no. Fortunately, they haven't.
I mean,
Sebastian Vettel, my man is.
I would
my man
no.
is
I would like to say something now. Like we talk about Ferrari being like. I mean, Soumil told they're a midfield team having a top car. I would say Haas are a backmarker team having a midfield car.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
makes
that's what's
sense.
happening now,
Exactly.
right? Like,
That analogy.
that's what
can
we
be
all
used as well.
predicted. That's what we predicted in the start of the season at Bahrain. Like I remember saying when other teams eventually figure out their car and eventually figure out setup and all that, Haas don't have the resources.
It's game over.
Haas
Exactly.
don't have the resources to defend that. And you can't drive the car at 200% at every race. It's just going to break apart into pieces, and you're not going to have enough spare parts to fix those repairs. And
That's a good
I
point.
just think Magnussen and Schumacher are doing their best. And actually, Schumacher, is he good enough? I mean, this is a burning topic that's been like bubbling up in F1 Twitter and in social media, just bubbling up, and people are like kind of hesitating because it's all poor Mick. It's poor Mick, but is Mick?
But I think I have.
Is-
I know.
is
I think I
Mick up
have.
there?
No. I think I have let's say I can defend Mick slightly. Last year, Mick was against whom? Nikita Mazepin. This year, he's against Kevin Magnussen. The girth and difference of the two drivers is paramount. I mean, I can't even fit it here. So it is like this big, nearly this big. So Mick, I don't think he's being able to cap that gap between both of them because of the same reason. So I think he's pushing a little too far to get to Kevin's pace. That's forcing him into such errors. And is he good enough? Now, that's very subjective. Good enough for what? Good enough for Formula One? Good enough against Kevin? Or good enough for Haas? Now, these three questions are, very,
Good
very
enough for
subjective.
all
I mean,
three, because let's be
Good enough
honest.
for
like,
Formula One?
if-
Obviously, yes.
Okay, wait. Let's answer all three. Let's start off
Sure.
with Haas actually, because he's not been at the same level as Magnussen, and as a midfield / backmarker team, I would want both drivers to be at par with each other to push the limits of the car and to get more data in, rather than having varied levels of data and trying to extrapolate some data that could be useful. So my answer for that, is he good enough for Haas? I don't think Haas would be extremely pleased with him.
What about you, Soumil?
It's kind of hard to answer. I think a fun way to look at it is that Mick Schumacher's only had 7 races in F1, because 2021 was like Formula 1.7 light or something, if you'd like to call it that way. That counts in terms of how you work with your engineers and how a team runs. But in terms of actual practical, let's say, Formula One racing knowledge per se, it's hard to really quantify that because you're so far off. It's like a Minardi in a way, a glorified Minardi per se. But in this particular year, there have been lots of cracks appearing, and I don't see why Haas wouldn't want to try a different driver out, because of course nobody will admit it, but we all love Mick Schumacher, right? That always clouds up our judgment just because he's Michael's son and he's such a warm and fuzzy character. But on track, definitely the performances can be better. Now, I don't want to throw up random names like Oscar Piastri or some other Formula 2 drivers that are unproven commodities, but let's just look at someone who we know has a proven track record. Nico Hülkenberg. I mean, he's someone who
Exactly, I was
we know
about
for a
to
fact
say that,
he can give you results
Actually,
like Kevin Magnussen can.
yeah.
So, for a
Actually,
midfield team like Haas, why shouldn't they go for 2 proven drivers next year?
Actually, if Haas were going to see the American thing, I would put Colton Herta.
But again,
Colton
everyone
Herta.
outside looks better than those who are inside, right? So just as it's another risk, right? He could end up being another
true.
Mick Schumacher in a way.
True.
But with
Very
Haas,
much,
you can't
very
quite take
much.
that.
No. There's another driver that hits here. That actually I would love if he came back. Can you take a wild guess? He's not in Formula One. He is. I mean, he's not. He was in Formula One.
Jacques Villeneuve?
Any guesses?
Jack
No.
Wheeler. I think
No.
it's gonna be a hard sell trying to take him away from his singing career.
Oh, his successful singing career, mind you.
Yeah.
No, but actually, one driver that I would love instead of Mick Schumacher
Bring back
would be to bring in Roman Grosjean.
I was
it
gonna
would be
say.
to bring in Roman.
Could be.
But are the bridges burned
Or-
between Grosjean
No.
and Haas?
Yeah.
Or another driver, Marcus Ericsson. Man, Marcus Ericsson was overshadowed by Charles Leclerc being generational talent. Ericsson is actually a very proven driver. I think he won the GP2 championship. He was the European championship of GP3, and he has a lot of achievements. But the fact that he was driving
And
with Charles
Indy,
Leclerc in the 2018
obviously,
season,
holding
Yeah.
off a second place driver at Indy is an almost impossible task with the
Exactly,
exactly.
So
So Marcus Ericsson could be another driver that could come back and should come back. I mean, I don't know why Marcus hasn't tried, or has he tried and failed, but he's another driver that would be lovely to have another shot at Formula One in general. But yeah,
I think the next part of the question, the second question is he good enough for F1? Is he good enough for any team? Does he have a future? Obviously, he is in the Ferrari Driver Academy, so take that into account. And Soumil, you go ahead
no,
first.
let's yeah, exactly. Before that, let's try to let me just get my phone out and see who are the drivers in the Ferrari Driver Academy right now. I know there's Arthur Leclerc. You
Schwartzman.
have obviously Mick Schumacher, Schwartzman,
Schwartzman.
Callum Eilert.
Eilert is not part of the FDA anymore. Callum Eilert, he's not part of it anymore. He left it earlier this year, if I'm not wrong, to pursue Indy. I think you have Ollie Behrman, you have loads of F1.
Ollie Behrman, yeah.
You have Montoya's son.
Some Beganovic fellow.
Dino Beganovic, yeah.
Yeah.
then
Tony Giovinazzi still.
yeah,
If you like to call him
Giovinazzi,
that.
yeah, technically, yeah, Giovinazzi.
No. Giovinazzi is the reserve driver of Ferrari.
Why
so-
can't Giovinazzi return for
Yeah,
Haas?
okay.
Why didn't we throw up his name? Giovinazzi is, but he's not been
Yeah,
doing
but
well in FE, right? He's not really settled in an FE either.
The point is, everyone outside looks better than they were inside. Same with Ericsson, right? Because when he was right there, let's be honest, the way he found his way onto the grid was through pay driving.
Yeah,
And for
true.
many years, his performances were underwhelming. It's only that Indy is kind of suiting him. Maybe it's the environment, maybe it's the car type, but
Yeah.
it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell,
Yeah.
really, because sometimes things just fit in, right? Like with Kevin Magnussen, we thought he was done and dusted, but here we are once again now, and he's ending up having such a good time. So very case specific, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to I think F1 is such a different, is super different compared to any other motorsport championship in the world. Like if you go to DTM or something, the whole environment is different, the whole team environment.
Yeah.
You suddenly have only 100 people working on a car, 50 people, and everything is much more stripped back, and there's way lesser media, there's lesser people talking about you, and maybe that definitely plays with your psyche. And I would say, yeah, there's loads of other stuff going on behind the scenes that is in F1 that's not there in any other series in the world. So say F1 is kind of in a bubble almost. Like drivers either get really good in F1, and when they transition to another series, they're nowhere, or they struggle in F1 but like excel in another series. So that way the bubble is there. And yeah, did you finish googling up the FTA drivers?
Yeah, we already named all the
Okay, so yeah, see, I got the knowledge.
No, here's one question. Moving away from Ferrari, talking about a past Ferrari driver academy, candidate, Sergio Perez has just signed for Red Bull till 2024. Now, is it a good decision? Is it a bad decision? Personally, I feel it's not a great decision. Taking for instance that he has the ambition to win the championship. Yeah, fine, he won the Monaco GP and everything, but it was through pure circumstances that he won the Monaco GP. If Max was behind him, I'm sure there would be team orders for him to let Max ahead. Since there was signs as the buffer between both of them, that was not something that was an opportunity. So in general, and not just that, we also know that Max loves a car that is really nice and sliding and has a lot of oversteer and rear oversteer to rotate the car in general. And it's also proven that Sergio Perez is like one of the old timers. He turns, the car has to go in that direction. There is no two ways about it in general. So in general, is it a great decision for Sergio to drive a Red Bull? Because not just that, a driver would like that team to have their philosophy or their workings in general to surround his driving style or his mentality. Now, I'm sure if you're living under a stone, then you would think that Red Bull is equal, but they definitely aren't. They are biased towards Max Verstappen. And Sergio Perez is just the guy who sits on the other seat. I may be too rude, but it's more or less like that. So is this a great opportunity for him to try to spread his wings to be a world championship contender? Or is it just him digging his own grave of being a Bottas or a Barrichello? Flip side to the same question. Is the Red Bull Driver Academy diluted? Is there any point of it? Is it actually promoting a lot of racing in general, or getting a lot of drivers in? Because it's basically stagnant right now. Let's talk about the driver mechanisms in general. Verstappen is not going to leave that seat, at least the team's not going to remove him. So that seat is done for. Sergio Perez is till 2024. Yuki Tsunoda, fine, he may not stay. Pierre Gasly, again, he may or may not stay. Now let's say Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda stays. What does Yuri Vips do? What does Jehan Daruvala do? What do these a few more? What does Lawson do, and what does Dennis Hauger do? What do they do? Do they continue in F2? Do they go to another championship? What? So it seems like it's a bit diluted. Not just that. Say they leave. Now, who gets that seat is dependent on one man, Helmut Marko, in general.
Correct.
Now, it's also a very toxic environment, as we all know. I'm sure you would also know that. The Red Bull Driver Academy or the Red Bull Driver roster is extremely toxic. Now, who gets that seat again is dependent on, Helmut Marko. So, is it very effective, the Red Bull Drivers Academy? Is it, effective in joining it to get a direction in your Formula One career in general? Soumil, I mean, if you can answer both, Sergio and Red Bull Driver Academy.
Those are some great questions, actually. I'll go to the first one first. For Sergio, I'll put it this way. For Sergio, there's nothing better, right? Where else does he go now? Of course, a lot of Formula One teams will be willing to hire him, but Ferrari have both their drivers on long-term contracts. Mercedes do as well. Apart from that, there's no other team who you can actually show your confidence in. So where else barring Red Bull Racing? And remember, had it not been for Red Bull Racing, Sergio Perez would not have been in Formula One in the first place. So what he's doing right now is still better than nothing. And I mean, that's a very understated way to say it, actually. He's still fighting for championships. And if he can break the door and kind of make it like an Eddie Irvine, Michael Schumacher circumstance where, okay, not that Verstappen has to get injured, but if he can genuinely consistently keep on doing better and showcase performances like he has and consistently be a bit of a headache for Red Bull Racing, it'll be better for him, right? Because now only 15
Mark Webber,
points-
Sebastian Vettel.
Exactly the point. You can maximize your opportunities in that exact same way. So it's still a great position for him to be in. He's earning well. He's got job stability for 2 years. What more could you ask for, right?
Yeah.
And Red Bull Racing, that's
He's
actually a
earning very
big
well.
deal. So that's one major thing. But for Red Bull Racing as well, I think they realize how big of a piece he is, because without him, their team looked so lopsided for the last couple of years when they had Pierre, when they had Alex Albon as well. Sergio coming in has just completed this lineup. And so I think it makes sense for them to keep him at whatever costs they can potentially keep him at, because even Gasly doesn't look like the same driver anymore this year. So you have a solid commodity. Why bother changing? I think that's the best way forward. But the driver academy, wow, that's a tough one, huh? Because it's a risk you take with that, because at some point of time you can only have so many seats. If you're lucky, you have 4 seats, as Red Bull do. But if you're just rich enough, I'd put it that way. But the funny part is you have to break the door down, like Nick De Vries is trying to do at this particular stage. Well, you want Formula 2, you have no seat, fine. I'll go to Formula E, I'll win that as well. Even if I don't have a chance over there, fine. I'll get to a test contract and I'll try to impress and maybe outperform the driver who's already driving over there. Because that's just a sad reality, right? We don't have 24 cars anymore. We don't need 24 cars anymore per se as well, because Formula One is not here to just kind of hand out seats to drivers, and not that adding 4 cars is going to greatly improve the entertainment spectacle. So why bother spending, let's say, $400 million a year for that? So point is, it's just dysfunctional at this stage because 2 seats are locked in, but I get a feeling that Pierre Gasly is going to change. So that opens up one place. And
where do you think he's going to go?
McLaren. Logically, this seems like no other team, because Ricciardo, I think the end of the road is very near, and Gasly needs a kind of a new setup. Alpine are not going to sack all their drivers, neither are Aston Martin. So what else do you have?
But yeah,
I'd like
What about
to
you,
I'd like to answer that question. I mean, first one, Sergio Perez. Yeah, I mean, he's earning boatloads of cash, and I think when you go from a midfield team and go to a top team, and then you taste what a top team is like, and you get your podiums, you're kind of addicted to that. Why would you ever want to lose podiums? I mean, and it took him 10 years to get like his first win. Okay, so like, once you have that feeling, why would you ever let it go? Like, it just seems really stupid, especially late on in your career. It's not like you're trying to, it's not like you need to rebuild a team. You need to go there and be the savior or whatever. You've already established your name, and your name is now, and you've become a fan favorite. You're carrying your country, basically. I mean, we've seen the reactions of the Monaco Grand Prix, and like, come on, man, Red Bull, they have great parties. You're living the best life. So why would you ever trade that for anything else?
but here's the thing. From his perspective, yes, there is nothing better. But from Red Bull's perspective, isn't there something that is better? Don't you think, Sebastian Vettel?
Oh. But wouldn't a reunion kind of create a rift in a team about who's the number one?
mean, fine.
Yeah,
If
but
you
like-
think that way, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that'll be
so-
fun, no? That'll be awesome
Yeah.
if he does come back.
Exactly. But he can't anymore, man.
Yeah.
That's already
So
there's no
let's
chance.
forget that. And let me
Exactly.
get back. Let me get back. So the driver academy, like you would, I mean, the first question is, why would you ever sign up with the Red Bull Driver Academy, knowing there's various obstacles of helmet Marco, and then they have 2 seats locked out at the top team where you obviously want to drive. But any junior driver, any race car driver drives to literally drive the next year. Like, you want a guarantee, you want money, you want financial support, and you want just a guidance in your career. And you'd seek that from anyone. Doesn't matter if it's the devil. Like, it could be the devil himself. And I would sign, if the devil told me I'm gonna drive F3 next year, yeah, sign me up. Like, I don't care. Take my soul. Take anything from me, I'll drive it. Okay. So that's the dynamic with these young drivers signing up to Red Bull. And you have Jehan, Vips, Lawson, Hauger. All these 4 drivers are going to be, they're obviously there to compete. And for them, they've made it so far just because they are hungry competitors, and they are there to prove something for themselves and Red Bull. Looking a bit higher up on into F1, that AlphaTauri, the 2 AlphaTauri seats. Gasly, looking at the contract situation with Checo, he's just gonna be like, yeah, I'm done here. This is my last year. I'm gonna go to McLaren or Alpine. And there's a reason for why I say Alpine, because I think that would really feed into their ecosystem. Having 2 French drivers. Yeah, having 2 French drivers, that 2 very well liked French drivers. Remember, both of them are race winners. I think that sets a really good marketing. That's really good for marketing in France. I mean, there's a reason why they went from Renault to Alpine. It's simply purely marketing. And I think that would, again, feed into that the whole French aesthetic, having the blue car, the whole, French driver lineup. I think that would go really well. Tsunoda, he's going to be there. He's going to be there trying to keep his seat at AlphaTauri, which I think he will. If they do end up letting go of Gasly, I think they will keep Tsunoda. But Red Bull are notoriously known for dishing out drivers, swapping them here and there everywhere. So like, we can't really expect it. So who knows, we might get 2 new drivers for 23 in AlphaTauri. 2 junior drivers. And the way the F2 championships is looking like, there is a possibility for Jehan, for all the Indian fans out there, there is a possibility that we might see an Indian in F1, which would be phenomenal. But
not just an Indian F1, a good Indian in F1.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
shots fired. That's shots fired. Okay.
it's plain facts. I'm not playing shots.
But
he's just the most prepared. You could call it that.
The most prepared.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like, but then again, if you look at the FP1 scenario, Lawson has future FP1 sessions planned. Yuri Vips had FP1 sessions, so maybe those 2 could be the ones Helmut Marko is looking at instead of Jehan. You don't know. I mean, Hauger, Hauger's been up and down, but yeah, I mean, I think you could see Lawson and Vips or Jehan in the Tauri seat for sure.
Maybe Alex Albon, for all we know.
Maybe Alex Albon, exactly. I was about to say that.
Exactly. But
because
I think,
not just that. No. Before K-Mag went to Haas, he was actually offered the AlphaTauri, the Toro Rosso seat back then. So could they do another Checo scenario? But I mean, who knows? But at the end of the day, I think it's a very toxic environment, and getting in the Red Bull Driver Academy is extremely competitive. Getting out is also hard, since there's not a lot of opportunities for you to.
Yeah, you need to go to witness protection.
But yeah, I think we've wrapped up this part of the podcast pretty well.
Yeah, I think
thank you. thank you, Soumil, a lot for joining us here and for actually opening up a new
I mean, giving us the
scenario for
idea
us
to
doing this whole
record
video
a
thing.
video podcast.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff.
Pleasure's all mine, guys.
Yeah. So I think we've
But
reached
yeah.
a checkered flag to the podcast. And I think we'll stick with the video format. It seems quite fun
We
to
should.
do. Yeah, it seems quite
Yeah.
fun to do as long as it's not a hassle to edit. I think we can keep up with this. So I hope you guys have enjoyed that, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Ciao.